In this video, I'm going to go through the solution to two of your homework problems. The first one is the cold compress. What the problem is asking you is that the user enters a series of characters like there, 000, equal sign, equal sign, equal sign, exclamation, 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 and then your app must get this input and change it to the number of characters that is repeating. For instance, here 0 is repeating 3 times, so it's going to output 3 zeros. Then there are 3 equal signs, so it's going to say 3 equal. And the last one is 4 exclamation marks, so it's going to output 4 exclamation. So it's going to output the number of characters which is repeating after each other, and then space, and then the character after. The only thing you have to remember is that there has to be space between the individual output here. So let's go ahead and start writing the code. Now, the first thing is you're going to design the screen. The screen, I've already designed it here. Change the title to cold compress, then use a horizontal layout, drag and drop a label, change a text to enter the text, then drag and drop a text box. Now change the name of the text box to something like input txt. Then for the button, change the text to process, change the name of the button to process btn, and last, drag and drop a notifier, because we need that one to display the result to the user. Now let's go ahead and start designing the app. The first thing is that I'm going to create a variable called output. This is going to be the variable which I'm going to use to get the text that has to be displayed to the user. So initially it's going to be blank, and then as we go through the text, this variable is going to be updated. Another variable that I need, I'm going to call it counter, which is going to keep track of the number of times each character is repeating. So initially I'm going to set the value to be 0. The next variable I'm going to create, I call it characters. Now these characters is going to be the individual characters that the user enters. So I'm going to call it characters. Now this characters is going to be a list of individual characters. So initially I'm going to set this one to create empty list. And the last variable I'm going to use, I'm going to call this variable to be just the name car, the first 4 letters of character. This is going to be blank initially, and this is going to keep track of the current character, because we're going to go through a loop and we're going to check each character with the previous character. So this character is a dummy variable which helps us to keep track of the character. So let's start with clicking the button. So we are going to say when the button is clicked, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split the input that the user enters in the text box and split it by individual characters. To do that one, I'm going to say set global characters, and the global characters is going to be the split of the input. So I'm going to go to text and I'm going to find the split function. So I'm going to say split text. Text is our input text. So text, and because I want the individual characters, I'm going to split it about nothing. Make sure this is nothing here. Now, I'm going to show you that what will happen when I click the process button and the input is split about nothing. So I'm going to click the notifier here, then I'm going to get the one which says show message here. Let's change the title to be cold compress. Let's change the text on the button to be okay, but the message is going to be characters. So I'm going to get characters. The reason I'm doing that, I want to show you when you split a string of characters and get all the individual letters, then the first item in the list is always going to be a blank one. And that's what I want to show you. So let's go to emulator and see what will happen. I've already started my emulator. So if I go to the emulator, let's see what will happen if I type Dora here. If I click process, you can see that the first element or item here is blank, nothing. So this means that when I'm going to go through every individual characters here, I have to start with index 2, not index 1. Index 1 is the blank one. That's all I wanted to show you here. So now, after first I'm going to take this one out, then after I split the input and get all the characters, I'm going to set the global character, the global char variable, to be the second item. So duplicate this one garbage, and then this one I'm going to change it to char, and I want this one to be the second character of the list. I showed you the first character is blank, so I'm going to go to list, and I'm going to take the select list item, and the list is this characters. So I'm going to take this one here, so it's going to be the second character of the characters list. So the second character, I'm going to put this one to be the second character. Now, I told you that the counter here keep track of the numbers, so I'm going to set counters to be equal to 1 initially, and my output, the one that I'm going to display the user, to be blank. Now you may say, why am I doing all this? Remember that the user can click on the process button more than once. So every time that it clicks the process, I have to initialize all these variables to their initial state. Now I'm going to go through a loop here. So what I need is control, and then I'm going to go through a loop, a for loop now, because I'm going to start with the second character. Let's copy this one to be index with the third character. Then I'm going to go through the loop, and I'm going to stop when the length of the car is met. So I'm going to go to list, and then I'm going to go length of car, and I'm going to go by 1, increment of 1. Every time I go through this loop, I'm going to check every character against car. Car is the previous character. So I'm going to say if what I'm going to check here is to see if the current character is the same as the previous character, which is car. So to do that one, I'm going to use the compare method. So I'm going to say if I need this compare text, and then I'm going to check to see if they are equal. But what is equal is going to be the character here. So I'm going to duplicate this one, but this one I'm going to say car, which is set to be the second character, and I'm going to check it against the current character. So I'm going to duplicate this one. Now this one, from the list of characters, I want to get the character at index position. First of all, this is too long, so I'm going to change this one to external. So I'm going to go from the third character to the end of the characters one by one, and I'm going to compare the current character, which is represented by the index here, against the previous character, because here in this case character is set to be the second character. We start with the second one. If they are equal, then I'm going to increment counter by 1. So I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to add 1 to the previous counter. So I'm going to go to math. I'm going to get one of these, and I need to get the counter. So I'm going to update the counter by 1. What about if these two characters are not the same? Then I'm going to say an else here. If they are not equal to 1, then I'm going to update the output. So I need to update the output. So I'm going to say this one to output. I don't need this one anymore. And I'm going to use a join block. So I'm going to go to text, and I'm going to get a join. Now, how many sockets I need? I need 5 sockets. There is only 2 here. So 3, 4, 5. First of all, I need I have to add the new text to previous output. So I need the previous output. And now, because the problem says and you have to display the number, space, and the character, so I'm going to duplicate this one, and then I'm going to change this one to counter. This is the number, then space, so I need a space. Duplicate this one, put a space, and then I need the character. The character is this car that we had before. This is the previous character. And then after this one, I'm going to again put a space. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go through every character starting from the third character. Remember, my CHAR character is going to have the previous character. I'm going to compare the current character, which is represented here with the index, against the previous character. If they are equal, then I'm going to increment the counter by 1. Then I go to the next one. If they are not equal, then I'm going to update output to be the previous output plus the number of times the character has been appeared space, then the previous character, and then another space. Now, when the character and the previous character are not the same, then also I have to set the counter to be 1 again. So I'm going to duplicate this one. Then I'm going to set counter to be 1. And also I have to change the previous character to this current character. So I'm going to set duplicate. Previous character is car. And I have to set it to current character. So I have to go to list again and take the select item. So I'm going to say select, and the select is going to come from the global characters, and the index here is going to be the index of the loop. So this is going to change the previous character to this current character, and then I'm gonna continue with the loop. When the loop reaches to the end of it, then I'm going to use the notifier and I'm going to show the global output. So I'm going to get the global output here and put it here. Now let's go ahead and test the code so far. There is something missing which I'm going to show you later on. If I go back to the emulator and type Dora, then you can see that it shows 1D. First of all, the space is not shown here, so I have to fix that one. The other thing is that 1D is correct because we have only 1D, no repetition. Then 1O, correct, 1R, but A is not displayed here, the last character. The reason is that in our loop, we get out and we display the output. What we haven't done is that we haven't appended the last character, which we are not checking anymore. So let's go back to our app here. First of all, these, they have to be spaces. So this is done. And the last thing here, before I show the output, I have to append these values to the global again. So I'm going to do duplicate here and put it right here. Now, it's going to be the same thing, global output, global counter, space, global character. This takes care of the last character of the input. Now, if I go back to this example and I enter Dora, then you will see it says 1 space D, which is correct, and the last one says 1A, which takes care of the last character. Now going back to our example, let's try the first input, which is going to be three zeros, 3 equal sign, and then 4 exclamation. You can see that it says 3 space 0 space 3 space equal space 4 space exclamation, which is exactly like the output here. Now let's try the next one, which is going to be 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6. Then it's going to be 6 dots 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then it's going to be 12 T's. So let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Hopefully I typed the correct number. and you can see the output is 6 space 7 space 6 space dot space 12t, which is exactly the same as this example. The next one is going to be open bracket, uppercase A, uppercase B twice, and then C close bracket. Then you can see that it says 1 space 2A, 2B, 1C1, which is right here, and then close bracket. And the last one is the number pi, which is 3.14 15555, and you can see the result 131 dot dot, and then the same thing as the one which is displayed here. So our app works.